There we go. And I'm going to hand you over to Sally, if that's okay, Sally.
Yes, thank you very much, Katie. Hello, everybody. Thank you for sparing the time to come and listen to me today. My name's Sally Vandenboss, and I'm the Engagement Officer for Victim Support in the Humber area. Been with Victim Support about 16, 17 years now in various roles. So I'm going to tell you a little bit about what we do and how we do it, our history, how we support trauma and crime, a little bit about antisocial behavior as well at the end of that. So any questions? If you want to do those through Katie, that's great, or you can interrupt me. I don't mind at all. So here goes. Except it won't move on. There we go. So who are we? Victim Support's the leading independent victims charity in England and in Wales. And it's our purpose to help and empower people affected by crime and traumatic incidents to move beyond that crime and recover to the point where they feel they're back on track with their lives. We're independent of the police and of local authorities, but we work with them and the whole of the criminal justice system and any other relevant bodies to improve services for victims and provide much needed support. So although we are local, we're national and we are independent. And I just thought you might be interested to know a little bit about how we came about. The first victim support scheme was set up in Bristol in 1974 by Chris Holtham. He was a probation officer at the time, and he felt everything was geared towards the defendant, towards the person that had committed the crime. He felt victims, once they'd given their statement, were left with no support whatsoever till maybe they had to go to court and give evidence. And so he set that up in, And so he set that up in 1974, and by 1986, every county in England and Wales had at least one victim support scheme. We then became a registered charitable company in 1987 and set up our free national support line in 1998. So that's been going an awful long time. And although to begin with, we just tended to give emotional support and hold people's hands, a lot has changed since then. So why are we here? I don't know if you've all heard of the Victims Code of Practice, but this is the right that victims have should they be a victim of crime. There are 12 rights in there, varying from to understand what's being told to them and to be understood, to have their information recorded quickly and to be kept informed about what's going on. And the one that accounts for ourselves is to be referred to services that supports victims and have those services and support tailored to their needs. So that specifically applies to the support that we give to anybody impacted by crime. So because of the Victim Code of Practice, the police crime commissioners have to commission victim services as part of their budget. And here in the Humber, along with South Yorkshire, we are the funded service. So the police crime commissioners from both areas got together and decided to fund a joint service. So we cover the whole of Humber and South Yorkshire. There are approximately 27 members of staff, and we cover the whole of that area with a triage team who are just like the triage at the doctors or the nurses, or a more intense service with our cope and recovery team. And I'll tell you a little bit about those as we go along. So let's have a look at us locally. We're independent, as I said before, and we're available across Hull, the East Riding, North and North East Lincolnshire. We have an office on Sculcoats Lane in Hull, and we also work from the fire station on Cromwell Road in Grimsby. We provide free and confidential service, so there's no charge whatsoever for our services, and they're all confidential, providing, of course, there's no safeguarding issues, which I think is often a good thing. We've all spoken to family and friends when we've been in trouble or had an incident happen to us, and then wished we hadn't worried them with all the fine details. So people can come to us and know it's confidential. They can get it off their chest, they can get information, and they're not worrying their family and friends. We can support anyone who's been affected by crime. And that means that not just the victim, even though we're called victim support, it's anyone that's impacted by crime. And I'll go into that in a little bit more detail. And we can support them at any time. So it doesn't matter to us whether the crime happened last week or 10 years ago, we can still support them. And we can support them for an unlimited time. So we don't give them 6 sessions or 6 months, providing they've still got a need connected to the crime, we can still support them. And another thing that I don't think many people know is that you don't need to have reported the crime to the police to access our services. So if for any reason you know somebody that doesn't want to report the police or doesn't want to take it any further, but you think actually they need a little bit of support of how they're going to cope and recover from this, we can do that for them. So let's just look at a few crime statistics. Nationally last year, there were an estimated 10.4 million offences committed. That's about 1 every 3 seconds. And we know crime can affect anyone. And for some people, life is never the same again. The type of crime has changed in recent years, with more crime taking place online and a greater proportion of crime causing serious harm. So in 2019, there were approximately 45,000 knife crime, 84,000 instances of robbery, 900,000 instances of computer misuse, and 3.7 million instances of fraud. And those are the figures that are reported. So if you think that quite a few will probably not report computer misuse or fraud for various reasons, the figures will be a lot higher than that. I just wanted to tell you a little bit about a case study here that we had. This was a young man that lived in a flat in Hull. He was only in his early 20s and he had his bike pinched out of his hallway. It was the first time he'd had his own flat. He was feeling really good. He'd got his independence and was just about making ends meet. He worked at a local factory some distance away and he used that bike to get to work. It wasn't insured and unfortunately he couldn't afford to replace it. It was reported to the police and victim support received the referral. This was just a bike theft, but let's look at the impact. After the incident, he couldn't afford the bus fares, so he walked to work and was occasionally late. And because of this, he got a warning. So his job was under threat. And because he'd got that warning, he wasn't sleeping well, as he was worried about getting to work on time. And consequently, when he was at work, his concentration wasn't as good as it should have been because he was tired. So he wasn't doing his job as well as he should have been. The landlord was very slow in fixing his locks, so he didn't feel safe in his own home. And he knew that if he lost his job and couldn't pay his rent, he could end up on the streets. And that is just from a burglary of a bike. So we at Victim Support don't always look at the seriousness of the crime, we look at the impact it's having on somebody. Fortunately, he did get support from ourselves and we spoke with his bosses at work because he'd been too embarrassed to say, I've had my bike pinched, and that was what the problem was. But once they knew, they were really understanding and were able to help him. We supported the victim to visit their GP, with the sleeping and the mental health, and we ensured that the landlord fixed the locks and made his flat feel safe. We also assisted him to find a second-hand bike. The outcome could have been very different for this young lad, but fortunately we were able to put things into place for him to cope and recover and get back on track again. And trauma can affect us all in very many different ways. A lot of it might be to do with our resilience. So it's our ability to bounce back from any stress or crisis that happens. And everybody's different. It might be the fact that at that time or their circumstances weren't very good. They'd just lost their job, or they were getting divorced, or personal relationships were splitting up, etc. So all of these things add to the trauma. It's not always the actual incident itself. It might just be the last straw. And everything takes time and everybody is different. So some people might recover really quickly. I think if anybody stole my bike, it wouldn't affect me and I would recover quickly because I don't use it very often. But for somebody else, it might take, as this young lad, it might take 6 months, it might take a year. And we're all different, and we cater our support to each person dependent upon their needs, their resilience to bounce back, their circumstances, and the time that they need. I mentioned earlier that we don't just support the victim of crime. And the reason for that is that many other people can be affected by a crime. It might be the family or the friends, it might be community, it might be even witnesses. And for various reasons, they might be impacted by the crime and need some support. It might be that they feel guilty for not preventing the crime, or concern for the victim, a case of feeling powerless or a fear of it happening again. And they might therefore feel very vulnerable. So anyone affected by crime can contact victim support at any time to get help. So how do we work? We get the majority of our referrals from the police and other agencies. 99% of our referrals come via the police, who, when somebody makes a statement, they are asked if they would like support from victim services, and the police then pass that on through their computer systems to ourselves. But you can also self-refer, and you can do that via email or phone. And once we've got that referral, within our contract, we make contact within 24 hours. So it's quite a fast turnaround for us. All our cases go initially to the triage team, as I mentioned earlier, and they assess the situation. And if anybody needs either more in-depth support or longer support, they will be signed to our victim care advocates, and they give a single point of contact. So we've all been somewhere where we've had to speak to a company or an agency, and we've told them exactly what the problem is, and they have said, yes, that's fine, we'll get back to you. And then it's another person and you've got to tell your story all over again. With victim support, once you have been referred to us, if you are given a victim care advocate, it will be that same person all the way through your support. So you won't have to repeat your story time and time again. They will know what has happened to you. They will build a relationship. So you get that support and know that that person understands what's happened to you. And the support will be tailored on an individual basis. So depending what they need, whether it's been because they are a repeat victim, whether it's a victim of a serious crime, or whether they've got vulnerabilities, so learning difficulties, or alcohol abuse, or they're under 18, all of those people will get support from our Cope and Recovery team. Let's just look now how people can vary in their recovery from crime. We've looked at the resilience, but these are the factors when it first happens. So initially it would be shock. Can't believe it, it's unreal. They might shut down and go numb or be detached, or even the adrenaline might kick in. And after that, it might be realization. They might have rising anxiety, fear, a lack of control or mood swings. They might start to come to terms with what happens, but they might also be realizing the impact the crime is going to have on them. It might be they had a burglary and weren't insured. It might be financial impact. It might be emotional impact. It might be physical. They might have been injured and they won't recover from it. Slowly, they may accept what happened, and they'll have different ways of accepting. It might be apathy, don't care, couldn't care less, anger, or even depression. It might be that they have images or flashbacks, or they feel a little bit numb. And then slowly but surely, the feelings will subside a little bit and things will get back to some sort of normality. They may recover and be less upset, and they may adapt and move on. But if we look at all these situations, certain things might happen along the way in which they may dip back into one of these feelings. For instance, they may have got all the way around this circle and then they have to go be a witness at court, and they will then go back into the shock mode and the realization and then the adaptation. So it's an in and out, and it might come back in over the years because they might see something on the TV that's very similar to what happened to them. So although these things won't be as severe, they may come back at various times in their recovery. So how do we support? We give emotional support, and we've always done emotional support. It might just be they want an ear, somebody to listen to them, to tell their story, to get it off their chest. It might be that they've nobody else to talk to. I do know during COVID, when nobody was going anywhere, it was very difficult for a lot of people to get that emotional support, but we managed to do it over the phone or via Zoom. It might be practical help. It might be getting their house secure again. So we can do all those practical things. It might be filling in insurance forms or helping somebody do a claim. We can do those things as well. Or it might be advocacy, which is our main role. We work with lots of other agencies to make sure that people are getting the support that they need and the information that they need. The way people want to interact with our service is also changing. So we've got lots of digital and online platforms now, because we know that people don't always want to have that face-to-face support, especially the younger ones. They want to do things online. They want to do it for themselves and not be in a room face-to-face. So we do that as well. We're also a hate crime reporting centre. So anybody that is suffering from crime or abuse because of who they are or what they are, and they don't feel they can go to the police, can come to victim support to report what's happening to them. And we can then support them in their journey to reporting it to the police and thereafter. We also do support for anybody under 18. And we usually start about the age 4 or 5. We work with children, young people, parents and guardians, and they automatically get that single point of contact. So they automatically get a victim care advocate. In the Humber area, it's a lady called Debbie, and she uses tools and play to engage with the young people, because we all know they don't want to just sit and talk to somebody face to face. But if they can have a distraction like a drawing or be doing something, they will often talk or open up. You can see on the right hand side there are some worry monsters there. They have like a zip across the mouth, and if any child's got a worry, they can write it down and put it in there, and then it's finished with, or it's there for the parent or the victim care advocate to open and discuss with the child to see how they can support them with that worry. There's also a picture of a courtroom there. So sometimes children are really worried about going to court, and it might seem a long way away, but they start to worry quite early. There is a young witness service in the Humber area that do a brilliant job, but often very early on we're able to reassure them, and often it's just the unknown. Who will be there? How will I get there? Who will sit in that chair? And once you've answered those questions and reassured them, that takes the unknown factor away, and sometimes that allays quite a lot of the fears. We also utilise the U&Co website, which is part of victim support, and it's for youngsters. And there's lots of videos and information on there that children can pick up for themselves. That's mainly the sort of age 10 plus. But they can see that they're not the only ones that's going through this, and it can be really reassuring for them. I wanted just to touch a little bit on antisocial behaviour, because I think that there's been a peak of that in Hull area recently. And it covers a wide range of unacceptable activity that causes harm to an individual, to their community, or to their environment. This could be an action by someone else that leaves one feeling alarmed, harassed, or distressed. And it also includes fear of crime or concern for public safety, public disorder, or public nuisance. ASB can range from rowdy kids gathering on the street corner or outside the local shops, or it can be criminal damage, neighbours playing loud music, or drugs activity. And like all crimes, it can cause distress and anxiety to people and negatively impact on their lives. And especially antisocial behaviour affects them because it's often around their own home, or in their house, or next door, or down the street. So it's there 24/7. They've no escape from it. Many of these types of ASB can be tackled effectively by the police and the local authorities. And Hull City Council's neighbourhood nuisance team is dedicated to supporting residents and tackling antisocial behaviour. If you're a tenant, housing associations also employ ASB officers to support the tenants and tackle the ASB. They will have a tenancy agreement, which will include acknowledgement they are responsible for the behaviour of their family and visitors to their home, and they must not engage in or allow others to engage in ASB. This gives housing associations some extra leverage that is not available when the offender is in private property. But we're really lucky in the Hull area that victims of ASB have got an ASB champion, and that's Brett Rutty, who works with victim support. And he gives victims of antisocial behaviour a bespoke, dedicated support service to help them cope and recover. And he works closely with partner agencies and can act as an advocate for victims where appropriate. And we're really lucky tonight because he happens to be on this call. So if you've any questions for him, we'll come back to those at the end of this presentation. We also do a lot of self-help tools because, as I said earlier, not everybody wants that face-to-face talk. So in conjunction with psychologists, we've produced these self-help materials. And you can use them independently or with our help. They're all available on our website, humbersouthyorks.victimsupport.org.uk, and they include help with sleep, managing anger, guides to well-being, security, and safety. So if you get a chance, please go take a look at our website. It has been revamped late last year, and there's some fantastic information on that. Lots of other agencies in the area that might be able to support you, and lots of tools like this that are on it that can help somebody if they don't want that face-to-face contact. We also have My Support Space, and this is accessed through our website, but you can work on this independently. You can pick up the link from our website, and it's a free online resource, and it helps victims manage the impact of crime. You create your own account and select the areas that you need support with, so you can tailor it to your own needs, really. And it's similar to what I've just said about our paper tools. it's got things like sleep, managing anger, stress, anxiety. So a really good tool on there that you can work on by yourself if you want to do that. But if you need a little bit more help and you're working with our staff, you can also get Silver Cloud. And this is cognitive behavior therapy, and it's very similar to what the NHS provide. But if you're seeing your doctor and there's a waiting list for counselling, this might be a stepping stone to just get a little bit of help along the way. They can work through these at home with coaching from the care advocate. And there are a number of different programs with things like stress, anxiety, and sleep. If you're interested in learning a little bit more about what we do and how we do it, or about the criminal justice system, or if you work with people and somebody might disclose to you that they've been a victim of crime and you want to know how you would handle that, we do criminal justice champion training. At the moment, it's online. We do it via Zoom, and it's just a 2-hour virtual training session. No experience is necessary, just wanting to make a difference in your community. So if anybody is interested in knowing a little bit more about this or would like to do the course, if you go back to Katie, she will give you my email address, and just contact me and we'll book you on the next session. I'm about there now. So these are our contact details. 0300 303 1976 is our triage team. Please give them a ring if you've any queries at all. They're a really friendly bunch. They've got so much knowledge, and they'll be able to help you or point you in the right direction if they can't. That's the link to our website. As I say, it's been revamped and lots of information on there. And we've also got live chat, so you can live chat on your laptop as well. I also mentioned earlier about the support line that's been running for a long time now, and that's on 0808 16 89 111, and that's for free, confidential, independent support. Has anybody got any questions?
Thank you,
where
Sally.
it all
That was
goes
really
quiet.
interesting. I know, yeah. That was really good. Actually, I didn't know about the Silver Cloud. That sounds really interesting. The CBT based
Yeah.
course, right? We can send all this out by. Oh, sorry, I'm just going to stop recording as well. We can send all this out